Good evening or good afternoon, depending on where you are, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We have, strangely enough, we usually talk about Lorne in these streams, and this is no exception. However, we were going to do a slightly different thing today. We're going to talk about Lorne's main issue. The reason he ended up back in jail is mainly because of alcohol, as you can see on the picture there now on the screen. So we're going to talk about Lorne's kind of alcohol problem and also kind of stories from our own life and how we can relate to it. I know I've done quite a few videos on it over the last couple of months or whatnot, but I just thought this would be a good idea. Now, there is someone with us who you probably will recognise from the community who's been very vocal in a good way, of course, in the comments of the last videos that we've done. So Kat G is joining us. Hello, Kat.
Hello, everybody. So nice to be here.
And the round of applause is from my good friend Shin's Koala. Hello, sir.
Yay, Kat. I hope you don't mind we're eating a pot pie while we're talking. Is that okay?
Oh, no problem.
Okay.
And just so you know, guys, Shin was chewing before I'd even started the video.
Hey, TK.
Yeah, but I admitted it. So
yeah, but he immediately said it was my fault for not telling him to not chew.
Yes, and you threatened a polygraph, so I had no choice. I had to give it up.
We hear you chewing.
You hear me chewing, exactly. I'm sticking with the theme here. Sorry about that. If I do that again, please say something.
Don't worry. Don't worry.
I know. It's unconscious.
Yeah. Hey, guys in the chat. TCat Recipes is here, and Webbs is here as well. Gorilla Spawn. Hello, everybody. And Psychology is here. Brilliant. Alcohol, the cause and solution to all of life's problems. Couldn't have put that any better. Now, Kat, just quickly, every time I have someone on here that's not been on before, I always ask them pretty much the same questions because it's kind of interesting. And the first one would be, like, how did you get involved with this community? So, in other words, what sort of drew your attention to Catch a Predator and then getting involved in all these kind of videos?
What went wrong, Kat? What went wrong?
Well, when the show was on the air, of course, I loved it. And then years later, it was after I became disabled, and I started staying on the computer a lot. And on YouTube, I just saw, there's old episodes of To Catch a Predator. And for really a couple of years, I just have been watching and listening to all of you guys. And just not saying anything, just, going from channel to channel, because I knew nothing about subscribing or becoming involved and things like that at first. I was new to the computer. I actually thought it cost money to subscribe to somebody.
Right.
But when I found out differently and learned that I could comment, and I was so excited about it because I'm a victim myself. Of I don't know if you would call it a predator, but molestation and things like that. And it's a great outlet for me because I could, at a young age, I could not fight back. So just sitting back and making fun of these guys was is very therapeutic for me. And then as I gradually talk to people and subscribe, it's just like, I feel like I've made a lot of new friends, and it's just been wonderful.
Yeah, we've kicked around the idea of the cathartic nature of this with a lot of victims. There's a lot of victims in the community, and they appear to say the same thing. I don't know whether it's a distraction from the memory, or maybe it's confronting it in a funny way, maybe, or maybe it's the community that you see that there's an army behind you. That kind of helps too. You're not alone. I'm always curious what the appeal is to. I know our subject is different, Annie, and tell me if I'm going off course here, but I'm always curious about that. The appeal for victims to this, because I think it's great. I mean, if they could laugh and join us, and however they're dealing with their the hell they're going through, if they can get a reprieve from it, maybe if they can confront it, like Proverbs said, what does it say? The wicked flees when no one pursues it. I don't agree with that. I think you got to confront it.
Absolutely.
And trust me, I'm not a Christian, but I'm curious about that, Kat.
Well, if I can tell a little story, I don't want to, just monopolize the conversation, but it happened more than once with me and with more than one person, and that's a lot. There's a lot of cases like that. It just seems like there are some people that seem to just fall in that bad luck sort of lineup. And I was shy. I had low self-esteem. It was difficult for me to say no, to people. But I guess one of the worst was my orthodontist. And back in the 70s, when I had braces and dinosaurs roamed the earth, at the time,
Shin remembers that.
I remember that, yeah.
They were very painful. They're not like they are today. And when you would have to go like once or twice a month to get them adjusted or tightened, it would hurt really bad. And I was 11, just turning 12. And my orthodontist would, when I was in the chair, he would put his hands on my chest and pinch and things like that. And he told me he said, if you think that what I'm doing hurts now, if you get me in trouble, I'll hurt you worse next time. And for some reason, he seems to be, in my mind, the most evil one just because of that. I was terrified of him to start with because every time I went, it hurt. And then he could do these things to me and I couldn't do anything about it, or he would make it worse.
Sounds like the Larry Nassar thing without the threat.
Right.
Using his profession to do that.
Right.
You hear about that all the time. Unfortunately, but yeah. That's horrible. I'm sorry to hear that.
Well, and of course, years later, my dad was like, well, why didn't you tell me? If I would told, I was afraid if I told back then that, the next time I had to go to this doctor, I didn't think on the lines of Dad would send me to a different doctor or anything. I was young.
Yeah.
But he would, next time he'll tear my mouth out, And when it happened with a different person, it was a man that hung around the newspaper where my mother worked, and he seemed to lurk around there every day waiting for me to get off the school bus. And he knew that, I knew and he knew that my mother would have blamed me for anything like that.
You knew this man?
So,
You knew this man, or this man knew you?
Yes, his daughter was my age. We went to school together. And he would kind of wait I would get off at where they load big rolls of newsprint in the little warehouse thing. And I would have to cut through there to go into the mailroom where my mother worked. And he would always be standing there in the shadows and step out and kind of corner me.
Sorry, Kat, how old were you?
At that time, I was probably 13. Something along there, 12 or 13. And then one of the last times was I had just started college. And I was home for the weekend, and I spent the night at a friend of mine's house. We grew up together, had known each other for years, and her parents were like my parents, And we fell asleep on the floor, and the next morning about 6 o'clock, her mother woke me up and said, we're leaving for work. Go get in our bed. Don't sleep on the floor. So I went and got in their parents' bed and fell back asleep, and I wake up a little later with my clothes half off and somebody's hands on it, and it was my friend's dad. Had come back home and gotten into the bed with me, and I jumped up and literally ran home half dressed. I only lived like a block away. And I couldn't tell, I could not hurt. She was my best friend at the time, or one of my best friends at the time, and I couldn't do that to her by telling. I just let it go. And a couple of weekends later, I went to college at Western Carolina in Koala, and I was in the marching band as a flag carrier. And at a football game a couple of weekends later, somebody said, some man over there is hollering and trying to get your attention. And I looked, and it was him. And he had traveled 4 hours to come up to Koala and try to get me to go with him, I guess, to a motel or something. And I panicked. I mean, I had a panic attack, and my friends got me out of there and went to a different dorm that I stayed in and kind of hid me. And he went away, and I never spoke to him or heard from him again. Because, like I say, I was in college, and I quit talking to her because she was going to school in her college and doing her own thing. So, nothing more was ever said about that. But I did not think I would be believed if I said anything, because at that time I was 18.
Well, why don't we all believe that he had a single car collision, fatal collision on his way back, driving 4 hours. It's amazing, especially in the 70s. I mean, there was no awareness of this at all.
I was just gonna bring that up, Shin. I'm sorry, but Kat, because of you sort of drawn to this community, and it's great that you find solace with myself and Shin at the minute and the community, and it's great. Do you because the way I look at it now, you related that story, which is difficult to hear, and it obviously must be even more difficult to tell from your perspective. Right. It would seem that when you've got shows like To Catch a Predator, does it give you a little bit of comfort to know that it's harder for these people to get away with it these days? I know it still happens, but because of the law enforcement improves, and as we move forward in a civilization, one would like to think that it's harder for these people to get away with it. Do you feel that way?
Yes, I do. I just think the more the merrier. Keep just even these individuals on YouTube that go out on their own, and pose as decoys themselves. I don't want to name channels or anything, but I'm sure most of you know who I'm talking about. There's different ones that they catch predators on their own. Now, I don't know what happens afterwards, like on the To Catch a Predator show. You saw the arrest and, found out about the follow-up and everything. These other shows are different, but just the satisfaction of catching them, saying, what are you doing? What was on your mind? Just for once, the control being taken away from them is very comforting to me.
From what I understand, they're what they definitely will do, and sometimes, like I said, it does lead to arrest. Some of these guys have connections with police departments and things like that, and that's an aftermath. But what they will do is they will blast this guy. They will blast his employer. They will blast his family. They will expose him. And the way I look at it, I mean, this is a new tool for these predators, obviously, and something has to be met. They have to be met cut them off at the pass, and to have that kind of fear, because as you know, a lot of these, these predators that were caught, it wasn't necessarily the arrest. It was the newsworthy event that took place. The fact that they were going to.
That's what made it so entertaining, wasn't it? It was watching these guys.
That was worse than going to jail for a lot of them.
Because some of them were like, "Oh, okay, I'm really sorry," and then it was like they realised the full gravity of the situation, and they were like, I think the perfect example of that is the military guy who fell to his knees. What's he called?
Right.
Cruz.
I
Resta
forget his
Cruz.
name, but
He was the perfect example of what you were just talking about, I think.
like,
Also, Lorne, when Lorne, as soon as Lorne was confronted with Chris Hansen, he thought he was a cop. He thought he was whatever. He knew he was in trouble, but
right.
it wasn't until the end when Chris did the reveal that he realized, wow, this is a lot worse. So I think a
Yes.
lot of these guys would rather be arrested quietly rather than
Yeah.
publish anything.
That's what made
And
it
that's a
worse
deterrent. That's a deterrent.
you know. That's what made it so much worse on them was the publicity. Excuse me just a minute, but there's somebody in the chat with a request for me. So I'm sure it is Travis. Smirnoff's
Oh yeah,
Twisted Green.
you
got to read the question.
Brilliant.
Hey,
That's
Kat,
brilliant.
you say, I'm sure it is Travis.
But I want to know this one's name.
Well, first of all, a lot of people in their chat are asking if you're really Catherine Reed. Just can we get that cleared up?
No, I'm not Catherine Reed. Just plain old Cat G. Cat Dodson, North Carolina, born and bred.
Jodie Foster, a few people are saying.
I'm sorry.
Dr. Lecter, may I speak with you, please?
Catherine Reed is the interrogator for Jim Roush and also Bald Beaver Hunter. And I think Travis Fowler, too.
Yeah. Agent Catherine Reed.
So, getting back to not getting back to him, not really discussed him. What is your opinion of Lorne, the cat?
Wow. Well, there is no short answer to that question.
I'm intrigued to know.
I think that he is a case of, and I kind of know what, I don't know how to describe it. His sense of shame and self-hatred for what he's done, I think, is so intense. He does not take responsibility aloud. He will never, I don't think, admit it and say, yes, I did this with this intention. It was always, well, they set me up. I didn't want to go there, this, that, and the other. I think that is a big part of his drinking, because with alcoholics, no matter what they did, whatever their reason for drinking, it boils down is to forget and not think about the worst thing they'd ever done.
He actually said,
he even says that. He even admits it in the chat log with Koala. He said that he drinks to escape, which obviously, I mean, this leads us quite nicely to the subject matter, doesn't it, Kat?
Yeah, because he kept saying, they did not have to put it on national TV. That's a bigger problem to him than the fact that he's a pedophile and wanted to rape a 13-year-old girl. And he cannot face it, and I don't think he ever will. Because let me tell you, with alcoholism, one of the biggest things you have, and it's one of the hardest things to deal with after, whether you stop drinking or not, but when you do stop drinking, dealing with the shame is probably one of the biggest issues there ever will be. Because you just look back and think back to what little bit you can remember, and it's just cringe. And that's just with like a regular old run-of-the-mill alcoholic. Like had I done what he had done, I cannot imagine what goes through his head and how much, if you stripped it down to bare bones, how badly he hates himself.
Do you know what's interesting about that, though, Kat? And this isn't to diminish the gravity of his crime in any way, because
Right.
if the chat log and what he did alone is enough evidence to put that guy away for
Absolutely.
life, as far as I'm concerned. What's interesting is that he's never actually done as we know, as we understand it. Some people may disagree. A physical act on a child. There are people out there that have done in abundance, as we know, and some of them don't do what Lorne does to forget. I wonder if you know why that would be in Lorne's case. Is it because there is a part of him that doesn't like to know that he is bad, that he is evil?
That's it. That's absolutely it. I cannot imagine what his relief could be, because it's just like you hear these phone calls where he says things like, "Oh well, I know damn good and well I'm good looking, and I'm this and I'm that." Um,
It's indisputable.
he is saying exactly the opposite. That's he? I don't know if it's self-soothing or whatever, but he's lost control, and that is his biggest problem. He's lost control of how other people perceive him.
Yeah, and you
Because
think
no
that's
matter what
mainly
he
due?
does, they're perceiving him as a pedophile.
Yeah, yeah,
And
and you think a big, how much of, I mean, obviously the drinking is something that we want to talk about mainly. What I have found in the last few years since my drinking has gone from regularly, to virtually nil, is that when you drink regularly in your spare time at night, your chance for growth of a person really is prohibited, because
right,
the time when you're dealing with things that you necessarily don't want to deal with, which you have to do in order to grow, you're just relying on the beer. So there's no real chance for any real growth, is there?
no. When you turn to alcohol or drugs or any mind-altering substance to deal with how you feel about yourself or whatever reason, the age that you are at that time, it stops. That's when you stop developing as a person emotionally, especially emotionally, which is why he has the emotions of a 12-year-old girl. Actually, because it's just
So
once
do
you
we think
start
that?
depending on a substance, then you can't grow anymore. You cannot.
Do you think? Well, for some reason, I don't really have as much information about his past as I'd like to. Um, but I have a feeling his drinking problem was pretty fierce before he was caught in the steam. The
Oh,
steam.
absolutely, I agree.
Yeah. So I don't
I
think it.
agree.
I don't think it caused it, obviously. But as somebody said in the stream, it's his way of self-medicating.
Right.
Um,
But he was self-medicating before he ever started talking to Kayla. I agree with you on that. This drinking thing started, I think, way before.
yeah, and
Um,
I think to a certain extent, when he says, "I do it to forget about the problems. I do it to forget about whatever it is,"
right,
it means something different now than it did then.
right,
Um, I don't, and I don't know what those problems were, but my guess is they were just run of the mill, average, normal people problems.
right.
And now this, I mean, of all the things you'd want to forget, I don't blame him at all. I'd want to forget it too.
Oh, of
Uh,
Absolutely.
course.
there's not enough alcohol in the world,
No, no.
It's
you know.
And
just it's one of them times, when you try and put yourself in people's shoes, like you try and put yourself in Lorne's shoes, which is impossible because we wouldn't do what he's done. So it's a bit of a non-starter. You just do this pointless theorizing, but you try just put yourself in that position, like you said, Shin. How would you? How I have trouble facing up to the demons that I've got, and compared to Lorne's fucking endeavors, it's just nothing. And it's like, I don't know how one would cope with that, because you'd have to look within yourself and say, I am a monster. I am truly evil. You know, the reason that he can't look at the chat log properly, and when he did, he wasn't taking it seriously, is because it's like a defense mechanism that his brain has, because he knows it'd be like self-annihilation. I think if he had I've said this many times, I think if Lorne had a true epiphany, a realization of what he has done, he'd potentially have a psychological breakdown or commit suicide.
Right. That I was getting ready to say, I am truly surprised that he has not been suicidal.
He's too narcissistic. Narcissist. I don't think, again, I don't know much about that area, but he really loves himself, or he thinks he does.
Yeah, he thinks he does.
And excuse me, Andrew. The thing about narcissists, and I said this before, is they don't want to be treated and changed. They like where they are.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I think he would be the last person to think about suicide.
Well, that's true.
He's a coward too. So, not that, people say, "Oh, suicide's the coward's way." I can't imagine something being. I mean, I couldn't imagine doing something like that without being in total fear, because courage is not the lack of fear. It's the opposite. It's doing something when confronted with fear.
Right. Well, the point of suicide may be cowardly in people's eyes, but the act of suicide, to me, I don't see how it could be considered cowardly. The act of it. I would be terrified to be able to harm myself that way. And I'm not saying that it's a brave thing to do. I'm just saying the act itself is not cowardly, but the reason they're doing it is the coward's way out, to not have to face things anymore. And
a lot of people pull back, especially a lot of people who use strangulation. Hanging a little bit, sorry, but they don't. What they do is they sometimes they do test runs. Essentially, they take it to the limit, and then they pull back, and then that one time that they passed out and couldn't pull back, and that happens a lot. Coroner can't figure out whether it's suicide or accidental in those situations. Of course, the family's always going to argue accidental.
Absolutely.
But that has a lot of legal ramifications, of insurance, things like that. But so the act of actually going through with it and sticking with it, I think, does take a lot of courage.
Scarlett Ebony just made a great point, and I think it's something that we should address, because talking about suicide is a very controversial, contentious issue due to how massively it affects people's lives, and I've been in some really low spots in my life, and I know what it feels like to just want to end it. And it's like Scarlett just put, there are so many different reasons and contexts as to why people commit suicide. Not all reasons are cowardly, not all are brave. It's unfair to lump them all into either or. So I think that
I think when they say it's cowardly, that's the survivor's angry response. This person, like they say, when you go to a funeral, it's not for the person in the box, it's for everybody around you.
Right.
It's for the people you left behind. That's where the sorrow is.
Right.
Yeah. I was reading, I can't remember who the author was. I was reading one of my spiritual books. It might have even been, anyway, it doesn't matter. But I'll tell you what it was. It was Sadhguru. There's a guy called Sadhguru. You may have seen his videos on YouTube. He did a book called Inner Engineering of the Mind. And there was a part where he said, in order to be depressed, you have to be a certain way inclined. You have to be a deep thinker and have a degree of introvert and introspection. Is that a word, or have I just made that up? Lorne doesn't have that. He's not a deep thinker. It's all very surface level, all fake, all kind of.
He's reactionary. He's totally reactive.
Yeah. So in order for him to get depressed,
Right. He
He'd have to,
cannot see the big picture.
yeah. So I think that's why his whole persona kind of prohibits him from feeling like that, because nothing can touch him. He's got this shield of impenetrable, nothing he can do is wrong, so why would he kill himself? He's not going to
Right.
let the world win, is it? Because it's
Well,
the world that's done him wrong.
Then there's the argument. He knows how bad cigarettes are. He knows how bad alcohol is. I mean, who's to say that this isn't kind of a subconscious method of his to do that?
Well, maybe it's like I've heard before. There are people who are committing suicide on the installment plan.
Right.
They do all these horrible lifestyle choices, knowing that what it can result in, but they're not going to like stick a gun to their head.
But Lorne is the thing about Lorne is he's resilient as fuck. He can adapt in any situation. I mean, he could be fine. I mean,
if I had been through what he has, I would be living under a rock.
Right. I mean, he just goes with the flow and somehow feels it's normalized. It's normal. But
I'm sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to answer a couple questions in the chat. I'm trying to keep up with it and talk to, so I apologize. I'm new at this. The last tanker asked me, do you reckon he was self-medicating about Melissa and Molly? And I apologize, I'm not familiar with Melissa and Molly.
They are the two real-life victims that he had. We try to actually avoid saying their names, only verbally.
Oh, I see. Okay.
No, it's fine. But they are the actual victims that Tiffany squeezed a confession out of. And yes, he was. I think he was medicated.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. He is self-medicated. Yes, I think so. And then I've got to say hi to my buddy Wes Most.
Yeah, Wes.
I'm here because of Cat G. Thank you, Wes. He is awesome. Absolutely awesome.
Yeah, he is. It's great.
You guys get Mr. GG to play that diss track for for baked salmon.
Oh, that's right. We're supposed to be pounding it on his door for that. I forgot.
So when do we, from the information that we've got available, when do we think that Lorne really started drinking a lot? We don't really know, do we?
Not really.
Others.
I think he was fairly young.
Yeah.
Because he had older siblings.
Right.
That,
he idolized.
Apparently he liked to emulate, according to what he says.
Right.
So,
I think psychology says when he left the military. I think again that's self-reporting maybe on his part, but I think it was earlier than that. It had to be.
Maybe,
he picked up smoking because of his brothers.
Maybe his failure in the military was the start of his the start of his downfall was, like I said, his early childhood. But maybe that was at the point when he started drinking, and that's what led him to this even worse path. Because I was saying that, most young people, especially at that time, especially in England, I'm not sure in the States, but all young people of early 20s drink quite a lot, or at least in England they do, or did.
Right.
Oh yeah.
But maybe he did it to excess. And Meb is in the house. Hi, pal. He's just said military people drink. Of course, I suppose it is a kind of the culture. Maybe that's what started him off. But do we think that? Let's just say that's when he started drinking. From the information that we've got, how long has he been hanging around with Tony? Because he knew Tony when he was hanging around with victim number one, and that was many, many years ago, wasn't it?
That was 2002, or 2001. It's hard to put a timeline with his stories, but it was early 2000, so it's been over 20 years. But I think he had a relationship before that because there was mention of Tony on Facebook. Oh, wait a minute. That was after that. Sorry. uh, during the victims thing. I don't know. I don't know really what Tony's age is either, whether they went to school together or he was a little older or something. I have no idea.
Wow. I'm curious, like finding out or trying to figure out when he started drinking is, that's an interesting. But when I think most people want to know, when did it grab him? When did he quit drinking?
You're right.
Socially, or just to relax a little bit, and then it hooked him. Because then it becomes a whole different ballgame. Once you become a certain level of alcoholic, that didn't sound right, but I didn't. Your only choice that you have left after that is whether or not to pick up that drink. Once you pick up that drink, you don't have any more control.
Yeah.
Your choices are gone. You do it because literally anyone who's ever gone through alcohol withdrawals will tell you would do anything, hurt anybody, commit any kind of crime to avoid that sickness.
Can we just get something defined, because it is something I think it's important, because obviously we're going to get deep into the topic now. From my perspective, an alcoholic was someone who had to be drunk permanently at any point when they're awake. They have to be intoxicated to some degree. Is that what? Would you two agree with that?
I would not agree with having.
Oh, you mean did I used to think that?
No, do you define that what being an alcoholic is? I just think it's important that we define what one is.
No, I mean, again, I can only speak for myself, but my issue was different. I think the way Kat described it is really good. It doesn't really matter when you started. So if I had a beer when I was 18, I was never into alcohol for some reason. I never cared for that. I mean, I was into sports and things like that a lot, so I was busy with that, and my buddies would drink beer, and I really got sick a lot and didn't like it a lot. But it didn't grab me until my 40s.
Right.
That's when it really grabbed me, and the martinis got me.
I was in my early 30s, Shin, so you're not alone there.
You introduced me to a martini in Boston.
Yeah, I know. Well, yeah, we should maybe we should talk about our current status. I don't really consider myself a recovering alcoholic. It's really weird because now, I don't look at alcohol as like a sword of Damocles over my head where I have to always, and I understand the AA way of doing it.
Right.
But, that would never work for me. I tried all that stuff.
I did too.
Yeah. And what finally had to work was I had to develop a new habit. And Andrew, you were talking about neuroplasticity and epigenetics and just changing making new neural paths. That's the only thing that did it, because now I could have a drink and I actually don't really care for it that much. I'm back to where I was when I was 18, but I'm not afraid of it anymore. I'm not staying away from people who are drinking or anything like that. And I think that makes it tougher to quit. And again, my hats off to AA and everybody who's trying, but when you have a recidivism rate of 95%, you got to acknowledge that fact. Yes. So things are a little different. So when Andrew and I talk about we're drinking now, and Andrew, I think your path to, let's just say normalcy, I don't want to say sobriety or whatever it is, happened kind of the same way, didn't it? You didn't go with the AA way of doing things and making it something that you had to avoid your whole life. And because now you're
I think I've got a pretty good thing going on with it now. I only do it, like, for instance, I've been back from Thailand now for 2 months. I've not had a drink once since then. I'm not missing it at all. But I'm going to Amsterdam in 3 weeks on like a meditation retreat. I know this sounds weird, drinking on a meditation retreat, but I'm going a day early before it starts, so I'm going to have a drink the night before in Amsterdam because I've never been. It's like it's like when I met you in Boston. It was a great experience for me. It was fantastic to meet you and all that. I was like, oh, let's have a drink. But
Yeah.
it doesn't. It's just not part of my life. But it was it's the norm in England. We are a nation of complete piss pots. It's pretty disturbing, really, especially in Manchester. It's like, if you look at like, Oasis that I follow and the groups like that, it's all, they did the song Cigarettes and Alcohol, and it's all, that's part of the culture. So as you're growing up, it's just the norm. And then
cool.
you start to look around and you start to figure things out when you get a bit older, and you have failures and you think, you know what, this is bollocks, this is bullshit. And it takes a lot to step out of that. And my social groups now have diminished rapidly. Just a quick example, I went on a night out. My old supervisor at work was retiring, so I went and met him, and his team were there, and I was just drinking an orange, and this guy who I'd seen around a few times, he was almost offended that I wasn't drinking. He actually, it was a really uncomfortable situation. I was like, well, I don't drink anymore, and it was like, it wasn't pleasant. So not drinking has its problems, but not to say, look what I've done, but I'm quite happy with the deal that I've got with it at the minute. Kat, before you were saying that you were describing that sorry, I'm backtracking here. I think it's a lot of people in the chat have got a lot of different ideas about what they believe an alcoholic is, and it doesn't mean anybody's right or wrong. But the first Mrs. R said that she knows people that are alcoholics who have 2 drinks a day. I can't get my head around that. I'm not quite sure what the definition of an alcoholic would be then. Do you understand what I'm getting at? I think people have different ideas about what an alcoholic is, and I'd just like to explore that a little bit.
That's true. People do have different definitions of their own of what an alcoholic is. And I will just say this. I know that I am an alcoholic. It is not for any one certain reason other than I'm not one of the ones that can take a drink now and then and be okay. Mm-hmm. And I know that. So I just avoid it altogether. I'm sure there are some that can take a drink a day. That's not to say that they're not an alcoholic, and it's not to say that they are. That is personally something that I cannot do, because everybody, I think AA is great. I took what I needed from AA. I'm not a AA person. I don't go to meetings. I don't quote slogans, things like that. That's just not for me. But I did take what I needed from their program, and they have some wonderful things in there. To me, if you have a drinking problem to the point that it's interfering with your daily life and your health, I don't care what kind of group or organization or whatever helps you stop, but just do it. But take any lifeline that you are thrown, because it will kill you. And everyone, like I said, everyone has, this is one quote from certain other 12-step programs, that you have to hit bottom. Everybody has their own bottom. I'm sure you've heard that, that everyone's is different. And every time, one thing is true, every time I would relapse, it would be worse than it was before. I myself have died twice from alcohol poisoning. I was brought back. My desperation to get alcohol into my body to keep from being sick with withdrawals got to the point of I would drink Listerine. And this is what kind of scared me about this is, as much as I love this community, there may be a lot of people after this that aren't going to think very well of me, but I'm just trying to be open and say what went through, and there are other people who have gone through worse, and what it can get to, the points that it can get to with certain people. Is I apologize. I've sort of wandered off.
No, please.
I hope I'm not ruining this stream.
No, it's going great. It really is.
I just want people to know how low you can go. I mean, and you think you won't? Yes, you can. Because I was not brought up in an abusive home. We had our problems and our issues. I had my father was a city policeman here in my town for 32 years. You know, my mother had her job and everything. My brother went off to college and became a very successful person. We both did well in school. I'm reasonably intelligent. But there I was in the gutter right beside a half-dead wino with 6 bottles of, wild Irish rose in his pockets. It can happen to anybody. And just, there is help out there. Reach for whoever throws you a lifeline, grab it. That does not mean you have to become join any sort of 12-step program or any other program and just adhere to that lifestyle no matter what, unless that's what keeps you sober. But if you can glean what you can glean from each little area of help, and that keeps you sober, that's what's important.
I'm just wondering if we just apply this to Lorne for a second. It's obvious that he's going to AA and all of his counselings because he has to. This isn't a decision on his own. If he were to make that decision, it would obviously be he doesn't have a problem. My guess. I don't think. Do you think he has any hope? I mean, the reason why he's doing this now is because he's not doing this on his own initiative. I think it's impossible for him to succeed with that kind of process, right? And not coming from him. And that's always going to be the case, I think, because I believe he's the kind of drinker that, first of all, he's probably one of the biggest liars I've ever seen.
But he's the biggest liars.
Liars, yeah. But and when it comes to that, it's almost automatic.
Sorry to interrupt, but isn't that what people do when they have a massive alcohol problem? It's like what you were saying earlier, Kat, about you would do anything.
Oh, absolutely.
There's a lot of shame, I would imagine, there, isn't there? So you're always trying to cover your tracks, and you don't really want to. There's a lot of denial, isn't there? And we know what fucking Lorne's like with denial, self-denial. It's his defining factor.
Well, when you're hiding beer cans, I mean, can't you see yourself doing that?
Right.
Can't you see? What am I doing?
I used to do that. I remember cleaning out a closet one time, and I bet I pulled 30 empty vodka bottles out of the closet. I found empty beer cans, under sofas. And I don't know why I did that. It's like keeping a souvenir. It made no sense at all. There are still people in the chat wondering if I'm Catherine Reed. And somebody else said, I came in late, but who is Cat G? I'm nobody. I'm nobody. I'm just a fan and part of this community, and I love this community. And if sharing some of my issues can help one person, that's what I want to do. If it would, I've told Andrew this earlier. We all make fun of, I can't stand Lorne any more than anybody else, but I would not wish alcoholism on anyone, even Lorne. That's how bad it is. It is slavery in the most basic way possible.
How did
That's
you
a good.
get
Slavery.
out of it then, Kat? If you don't mind me asking and you don't mind talking about it, what was there a decision that you came? Was there a was it
Excuse
one
me one
when?
second, Andrew, I'm going to step away for a quick
Well,
second.
Yeah, okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what Shin said.
Yeah, sorry, I was just wondering, Kat, if there was like you said, no, you can't, you don't drink at all.
Right.
What started that process of you stopping? Was there a specific moment that you thought I can't do this anymore? What was it that made you make that decision?
Well, it was more than one thing. Like I say, addiction is slavery. You wake up thinking about it, you go to bed thinking about it. You live your day around it. It consumes every part of your life. You cannot be the person that you are intended to be by whatever higher power there is, that created us, or however we became what we are. You can't do it. Then I've got a person in my life, my husband Harold, who I love more than anything in the world. And I did not want him to have to watch me die, which is what he was doing. And he's been wonderful to me. He's never threatened to kick me out or anything else, like he should have done. I've had some great supportive friends. My best friend Linda, I hope she's listening right now. She has stood by me no matter what has happened, warts and all. And I've done some terrible things to some good people, and I've been forgiven for that.
Do you
And
forgive yourself?
pardon?
Do you forgive yourself though?
Yes, I did. That was the key turning point. Was what I was getting to. It's fine if you do it for other people, but it's never going to last and work until you do it for yourself.
Exactly, and
And I
that's
was
where
tired.
Lorne doesn't.
Right.
That's
I
where he
was
fucks
sick
up,
of
isn't it?
hating myself. Yeah. When he gets tired enough of hating himself and is willing to show his bare bones in order to have a better life, then he may have some hope. If that
Do you
makes
think
any
that'll ever
sense.
happen, Kat? From your knowledge of him, because I know what I think, unfortunately.
I really wish I could meet him. But I don't know if he could ever get past his rage enough to be willing to help himself, because at this point he doesn't think he's the problem. He thinks other people are the problem. And I think he will always feel that way. And until he until he starts saying, look, I'm the problem, not other people, not not NBC who framed me, not female powers who bewitched me. I'm the problem. That's when he's going to start getting better. And I honestly just don't see that happening with him, because he's one of the angriest people I've ever heard of.
Kat, excuse me for interrupting. Jeff Horpachuk has a message for you. I'd like to read
Okay.
it. Pretty good. It says, "Hi guys, tell Kat G your honesty and being vulnerable and being accountable is amazing. I too have drug issues and get withdrawal and fear and the fear of stopping. Thank you, Feline Princess." Just to let you.
Well, thank you so much. You're very welcome. I love all of you guys. I truly do. Harold here could tell you how therapeutic this community has been for me, because I'm disabled, so I don't have like a certain bedtime or whatever. And you know, I run into Andrew having a strain at 3. It's 3 o'clock in the morning here. You know, and sometimes when I wake up and can't go back to sleep, I go around and look for streams or new content. You know, I don't know how to make content. I probably would never be able to have the equipment or whatever. And
Well,
one
you're
other thing,
making
I thought,
content now,
who would?
Kat.
Yeah, but one thing I thought was, who would want to hear this voice for like
Well,
30
it would seem a
minutes?
lot of people.
Well, that makes me feel great. Thank you so much. This is just what is it? Where is it? Lorne lives, Cornville, Maine, and I live in Concord. And I've all my life people refer to it as corn cob, North Carolina.
You know,
So,
you're right about. It's funny that you mentioned how this has kind of helped. This community has kind of helped you with your recovery
mm-hmm.
because I have the same story. You know, again, things didn't change for me until 2018, and that was about a year and a half after I got into this, a little less than that. And again, it wasn't that I had saw something so profound it changed or anything like that. And I don't even know if there's a causation, but there's a correlation. When I was going through my journey, I was really into TCAP, and I found that extremely comforting
Uh-huh.
and empowering to a certain extent. So TCAP, Shin, I think it was your year too. No, 2016. I actually started. What 2018? Yeah, is when I stopped.
Right.
But I went on a personal journey, not necessarily for alcohol. It was kind of more of a, you know, just stripping everything out. I mean, first of all, getting everything out, including the fat and the toxins, and then building it back up.
Right.
And in that process, when I first started out, I did not have the objective of, as I said, to stop drinking. As a matter of fact, I was drinking in the beginning because I learned there were certain alcohols that were okay, didn't have sugar content, so it was fine. But that slowly started tapering off as I started getting a more discipline and more habits into something else, and something else caught my attention. So now, you know, and Andrew, you mentioned this earlier, that when you're going through, let's just call it recovery, you know, socially things are going to change around you, and it's not necessarily for the good. You're going to have friends who are going to be upset with you because you're not showing up, or if you do show up, you're not having a drink or as many drinks, things like that, and you have to deal with that. That was probably the toughest part, which is weird because these people who love
It's
you,
massive. It's massive.
yeah,
Right.
these people who love you, who you want to be, you know, want to be with, are giving you the exact opposite, you know, feeling. And oh, come on, you could have a drink. We want you to be the way you used to be. Oh no, you
Right.
don't know about that. But you know, but now they settled into that, which is fine. But if there was any time where I was going to drink, it would have been during those times. Oddly enough.
Right.
If you're
But if I was
talking
to
about
go,
that social thing, I consider
yeah,
myself lucky in that I've got other things to do, like aside from drink. And it was difficult. It was I had to dig deep within myself to face these demons that I've got, face up to them, and then not have to drink. And I am able to, I don't have to find another distraction. Like, I've not taken up another drug, or, you know, I can quite easily just be and, you know, read or something. I'm lucky in that I have interests about, you know, criminology. I do the YouTube thing. I play my music. I like to travel. If you look at Lorne's situation, what has he got other than drink? What's he going to do? There's a lot he can do, but what is he going to do? What's he going to... Do you get what I mean? What's his option? If he stopped drinking, what would he do?
we've had this discussion, Andrew. We talked about what would be in you know, alcohol was not in our lives. What is there to do? There's just so much that he has.
No, for us there is, but but what about him?
I know that's the issue. You know, again, somebody mentioned earlier, you take take a horse to water, but can't make him drink. But he's got all of these options around him that he doesn't
He does
even.
have options that me
Yeah.
and you would be able to look at, and we would go, because you've always got stuff going on, Shin. You know, you're doing this and you're doing that, and it's great, and there's always something to focus your attention on, because you know you need to do that in life. You've got to have something going on. He
And
kind of
alcohol
knows
took
that
that
in a
away
way.
Alcohol actually took that away from me.
It
It
does.
was, especially the following day, because again, you got to talk about a detox period. Talk about lack of productivity. Yeah, I had to
Right.
grind through that. Just getting up in the morning, considering, you know what, if I call in, oh no, these calls are going to come here. You know, it was just horrible. It was just horrible. But now, I wake up in the morning and I feel great. I just want to attack the world. But
Right. I just I feel so much better about myself since I stopped. I forget when you said you stopped in 2016.
no, that's
Yeah.
2018. I misread the question. I started
Okay.
PCAP in 2016. It wasn't until April 2018 that I started that. Yeah.
Okay. Well, mine, I guess you call sobriety day or whatever. It's next Sunday, March the 8th. And I'll have 2 years.
Congratulations.
And people say, "Oh, that's not a lot of time. You'll screw up." I've actually had people say that, but and this is one quote that I will spout. That's there is, you truly do have to take it a day at a time. But that is true with every single aspect of your life.
So
You can only do what you can do in the 24 hours you've been given. And the main thing is it's not rocket science. It's just
it's a lot of
don't
work.
pick it up. Yeah,
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
it is a ton of work.
Yeah.
People have called me, people in my family and everything have called me weak. Oh, it's a weakness. It's weak. But and I'm not tooting my horn, but if they knew what I had been through in the last 2 years of keeping this and keeping what I have, there's nothing weak about how I've worked
Right.
to maintain this. Nothing weak at all.
No. It takes a lot of effort. And that's one of the problems that Lorne has going against him. He's lazy.
Oh, very.
He doesn't
Yes.
want to put any effort into it. A declaration's good enough.
And he's so entitled too.
Yeah. I can't imagine he would ever have the mental strength to do this. First of
Do you
all,
not
he's got
think that he does have a resilience within him somewhere because of this?
No. but that's about that. He has this way of compartmentalizing things, and I'm on the RSO. If I was on the RSO, I'd wake up every morning going, "Fuck."
I should hope so.
Shit. Fuck. I'm awake. I hate this. Oh, I got to go through my day. Oh my God.
Kat, I know I've asked you about Lorne. Do you hate him?
Yes, I actually say I do. When I think I don't, I'll read some of the chat log. I'll listen to phone calls. That some of the verbs he has let loose on whoever, it doesn't matter which one it was. Some of the verbal abuse has actually given me flashbacks. I have PTSD, and sometimes I have to just leave the stream and then come back a little later.
Is there a particular trigger? I mean, if you don't mind me asking, that he does or says, is it the way, like an incident or?
Well, it's the way he constantly interrupts. He won't let whoever finish a sentence. And because he's in his mind, what he says is right, and all he can do is scream mindlessly and not listen to, what's being said. That triggers me because I've lived in that before, where you don't get a chance to be yourself, or just like he thought he heard a makeup bottle being opened when Ramona was taking a kelp. Okay, he just assumed that whatever that crazy thought he had, that was right, and he wouldn't let her explain things, and that's just comes down to a little thing with me. As one of my pet peeves is to be interrupted like that. It sets me off. But and some of the words he uses, the stupid, I hate that word, stupid. Of course, bitch, that's no fun, and that C word, oh my goodness. it's just the ugliness, and there's no possible way you could say those kinds of things to somebody that you think you love, even though these people aren't real. They are to Lorne.
He's taught me a couple words. Like, I've never heard cunt hole before. That's a good one. I mean, that's about as graphic as it gets, I guess. I've never heard anybody call anybody that before.
No, I haven't either. Well, maybe he can write a new urban dictionary or something. Wherever he is right now. So, I would love.
I mean, it's.
It
sounds like
I would love, but I just don't know.
It sounds like it's therapeutic for you to get the feelings that you do out on Lorne. It's just a shame that we have to hate somebody, but of course, he doesn't really leave you with much choice with the antics he gets up to. There's a cousin of mine who I've seen deteriorate over the years, and I've known them since they were a child, and I know they're a good person deep down, and alcohol has turned them into a complete arsehole. And
yes.
It tests the very limits of my patience to the point where I turn into an arsehole myself because I can't cope with them. And I always manage to step back and realise it's not that person that's being an arsehole, it's the alcohol making them be an arsehole.
That's right. See, I think, sometimes I think, well, it's not Lorne that I hate. I mean, I've never met the man. I hate the person.
You hate what he's become.
Right. I hate what he has become. And it's just, for myself, I do not understand why he can't see that at all. But I don't think he will ever take responsibility, because his sense of shame, and like I say, shame will keep you under every time. And until you're willing to face the shame, you're going to stay pinned down. And that and resentment. Resentment will eat you alive.
He's got plenty of that. He's got plenty of that. He doesn't have any shame, but he's got plenty of resentment. Right.
The things he's doing, it is like drinking poison and hoping somebody else will die.
Yeah.
He just cannot point it at himself.
And he's hanging around with the wrong people as well, and that's a massive thing. I remember being stood in the local bar once, and it was a few years ago, probably about 4 or 5 years ago, and it was at the height of my alcohol problem, where I'd actually developed a beer gut. And I remember looking at myself in the mirror and I just remember saying to myself, this is not acceptable. I'm not fucking having it. And I remember I knew it was wrong as I was drinking every night. I just knew it. But I did it because I didn't know what else to do. And I remember saying to the guy, and he was a nice guy, he's in the bar every night, and he still goes in there now, I think. And I said to him, do you think there's anything wrong with this? And he went, no, it's not. You're only having a few every night. And it didn't. And it always stuck in my head that, because even though I was asking for somebody who had an alcohol problem for advice on having an alcohol problem. Do you understand what I mean?
Right.
And that's the traps you fall into, isn't it? And you sometimes you'll take that answer as gospel because you don't want to admit the truth. And Lorne's, he kind of knows it, but kind of doesn't at the same time.
Yeah.
One thing. Well, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, in a horrible way. I mean, it's a horrible thing to say, but it really is the only thing he has. I mean, that gives him any. I don't want to say happiness, maybe reprieve. I mean,
Empowerment.
being alone with his thoughts,
Right.
trying to pick up healthy habits. He's just too lazy. I mean, this is all he has.
Right.
So, I just remember when Tiffany was asking him, what's it going to take for you to comply with your conditions? And he goes, I just want new conditions. I don't want the alcohol in my, yeah, of course. He's just, rather than put the work in, let's just change the rules.
Someone's just very quickly joined us as well.
Okay.
Hello.
Oh. Hey, I didn't have that. I didn't have my surprise ready for you. I didn't know you were going to be on here.
I bet everyone thought they were going to get through a stream without having to hear me, but here I am.
Hi.
Hi, Kat. Come on, beg me.
How are
Did
you?
not. I'm doing so well. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Good. Thank you so much for sharing everything that you did.
Oh, no problem. I can say it's therapeutic. It's not the kind of thing you stand in line at Walmart and share with the person in front of you. But that's why I keep saying over and over how therapeutic this community has been for me. But this has been better than like any of the so-called group therapy I've had to go to here locally, because when half the people in a small town
Mm-hmm.
and there you see, your neighbor sitting across from you, it's just not the same. It's my biggest fear with sharing anything with you guys was I didn't want anybody to say all of a sudden, well, geez, we don't like her anymore, but if somebody decides that, then there's nothing I can do about it. I did this hoping it will help at least one person. And it has helped me, but that's not who I was, intending for it to help. But I hope it has helped someone.
Well, I think a lot of people will relate to what you've said. Maybe not the exact details of having abuse, but, having someone who was an alcoholic in the home, what they had to deal with as kids, and maybe even turning into someone who had an alcohol problem as they became an adult.
Right.
I think the more people
was
are
a severe alcoholic,
Yeah.
So it's been part of my life for as long as I can remember.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have family members that were like that?
My mother was an alcoholic, and my dad's father and like uncles. There's a lot of alcoholism both sides of the family.
Did anybody ever seek help besides you?
Not that I know of. No. My mother went through detox a few times, and actually once she stopped drinking just on her own for about 6 years. And ironically, she started back slowly. She got started back drinking by drinking NyQuil, if you can believe it. At that, this was back when in the mid 90s, and at that time, NyQuil was 25% alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
It's only 10% now. And I think she thought, well, this is medicine, so it's not, it's not like drinking liquor or beer.
Mm-hmm.
And that was her gateway to get back into it. So people just, would not believe the depths that people can go to. I myself tried one time drinking, rubbing alcohol to try to keep from going into withdrawals. And of course, I ended up in the hospital. And I'm so fortunate. I have no permanent kidney damage.
Mm-hmm.
The only issues, and they don't think it was alcohol related. I do have AFib, and I just had a stent put in my heart about a month ago.
Right.
And I have the degenerative disc disease and fibromyalgia. I have bipolar disorder, PTSD. But
are you in pain now? It's not that those are very painful chronic problems. Especially fibromyalgia.
Yeah, I am actually on maintenance medicine to keep from abusing opiates because they became a problem too. Because of the chronic pain issues. Yeah. Right. So I am on a maintenance program for that. I no longer go to get pain pills from a doctor. I take, if anybody's ever heard of it, I take a Suboxone strip every day.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that helps with the pain, and it cuts any cravings for.
And Seroquel for sleep is another thing they prescribe.
Seroquel, yeah, I do take Seroquel.
Yeah.
I'm on Seroquel, Trazodone, Buspar, Vistril. Of course, they can't or won't. They can't give me a benzo, and I don't want one.
Well, you know what? With all that, alcohol is contraindicated. You shouldn't drink now anyway.
Right. Which I'm not going to. But since I got on the correct bipolar medicines and things like that, a lot of the reasons that I drank I can deal with them now without drinking. So,
did you notice anything about since you joined the community? That's kind of where we started. You know, in terms of your recovery for your childhood abuse, pardon me.
I was just saying, excuse me a minute or so.
Can we still be heard?
I can hear you.
Oh, okay. I'm just curious about how the community, when you got into the community, what if anything happened, in terms of your recovery?
Well, like I say, I had been watching from the sidelines for a long time.
A lurker. A lurker. Yes.
Yes.
I was a lurker.
Yes.
We call you a lurker.
I was in the shadows in a long trench coat.
Yeah.
But it was as simple as I'm pretty sure it was clobbering time. That I commented on one of his videos or a live stream. I think it was a video, and he responded right away and was so kind. And then when I started subscribing to other people and making comments, everyone was just so kind and welcoming. And I didn't jump in telling, look, I'm a victim. And I just started watching. I was just like a fan, this is great. Thank you. Keep it up. And it just became an important part of my life. And a very therapeutic part of my life. And I really don't know what I would do, without you guys sometimes.
Was it the humor? Was it the, the laughter helps a lot of things, obviously.
It does. A lot of it was the humor, Shin, because it replaced the fear.
Exactly. You can find it.
Really good way of putting it. I've never heard it mentioned like that before. We always have that balance of Lornography, of the crazy humor. It's nothing. It's like nothing we've ever experienced before. No. And the good thing about it is it's all personal to us. If we were to sit across from someone else and someone who'd never heard of Lorne and try and explain how funny it was, you'd never ever be able to convey it. It's a bit like The Room. Trying to. You finally watched The Room, haven't you, Tiff?
Oh my God, I watched it last night.
Yeah, it's like you loved it, didn't you?
I love it. I'm going to watch it so many more times. That is the best movie I've ever seen in my life.
Wait a minute,
Exactly.
you're talking about that Razzie movie, whatever it was. That movie's like one of the top 3 worst movies ever made. Is
yes.
That you loved it?
It's amazing. If you haven't watched it yet, you have
Reborn
to.
does a good thing with that.
Yeah,
it's the greatest piece of entertainment ever made.
Yeah.
But the humour in Lornography is similar in that you can't convey to somebody how funny it is. You cannot, like, we were talking about The Office before, weren't we, Shin?
Yeah.
We both love The Office, and it's a genius piece of comedy and writing. But with Lornography, it's all real, and you can't really convey to somebody who isn't involved in it how funny a character Lorne is, because you'd think if you was trying to explain this to somebody, a sex offender who tried to do what he did to a 13-year-old girl, you'd think, what's funny about that?
And the way we talk to each other. How's Mr.
It becomes part of our everyday language.
Exactly. And it's so offensive what we say, but unless you're part of the community, you realize it's hilarious. White stuff and all that other stuff.
Oh, and if I may say something, another, when I first started watching and subscribe, I think one of the first people I subscribed to was Wes Mose, and I just thought he was great, and he was the kindest person ever.
He's great.
He replied to my comments, and he made me the coolest logo ever. If anyone has ever seen it in any of his videos, he'll show it. It's like a cat. It's a G drawn with, it's just cat shaped like a G.
Oh, cool.
And I would give anything to have a hoodie with that on it. I really would.
That's
but
awesome.
He's just been absolutely great. But everybody has. I wouldn't want to leave anybody out. There's not a single Lornographer that I don't support and enjoy and try to say something kind and encouraging to, no matter what content they put out. I enjoy it all.
And it's self-regulated too. People come in and they realize this isn't for me, and they get out, and then you realize that's not the kind of person you kind of want here anyway, if based on what they were probably looking for. I mean, it does bring together the right people with very, very similar thought processes and emotions and things like that. And it's not for everybody, but I think it actually is. But it takes a while to get somebody to sit down and watch it and figure it out. Because I can't help but believe that if anybody just took the time or was forced to watch this for a week, they wouldn't be hooked.
Yeah, it's a fascinating story. I fail to see what isn't fascinating about it, but of course, people look for different things in entertainment or, non-fiction, shall we say, or whatever it is. With regard to Lorne's alcohol abuse and the way it makes him act, Tiffany, because of you speaking to him on numerous occasions when he's fucking off his face, is there anything you like to add with regard to his behaviour, about how it makes him behave and his abuse of it?
I think it was always interesting, first, of course, that he denies it every single time. It's always, nope, I'm drinking coffee. Every time you ask him, and then you ask him again, and then you ask him again, and it gets, the story gets a little bit stronger because, of course, he's getting more drunk as the night goes on. And he has these tells that he has every single time he's drinking as well. He has kind of a laugh, and then just the way that he speaks, he slurs a lot. And after hearing him so many times, you start to pick up on it, even though those changes can be a little bit subtle. So someone just listening to him for the first time may not recognize it. They say, I don't really know if he's drunk. Maybe he's tired, because that's another thing I'll say too, is that he's tired. But what is interesting about Lorne's drinking as well is not only the frequency, because he drank a lot more than I think anybody realized, but also the fact that it would make him smarter, in that he would be very confrontational about certain things. Things that didn't seem right would be brought up, like, oh, isn't it funny how nobody answers the phone when I call? But whenever somebody wants to call someone else, they're automatically answering the phone. So he picks up on things like that, where, you know, when he's sober, he doesn't bring those things up. So even though drinking for him can be therapeutic, that's what he's looking for. He's looking to feel better. And that's the reason why he goes over and hangs out with Tony, is so that he can feel better. He's very lonely. And so when he's able to do that, he does have a great time. Because when he's able to hit that buzz and he can just laugh and joke and be stupid, and no one's really calling him out or calling him a pedo, any of the things that happen otherwise, you know, he's just kind of having a good time. And that's really what he's after. He wants to forget that he's lonely. He wants to socialize and feel like he's welcome somewhere. But what ends up happening is, as soon as the tables turn where something is going to make him angry, that's when it's going to have the opposite effect for him. And he, again, like I said, he becomes smart. So he's no longer able to ignore all of the things that are painfully obvious when it comes to his so-called friends. He knows very well that Tony is not really his friend, because Tony doesn't invite him over. He just shows up. And they're not doing anything. They're just sitting in their kitchen, hanging around. And he walks in with beer and food. And so they'll deal with him for a little while. But as soon as the last drop is done, he's walking out the door. He's not really just socializing and hanging out with a couple of friends. So it's interesting, too, that we found out not only does the catfish start to receive really angry messages when Lorne's drunk, but Tony gets them, too, every single time. So as soon as he's walking out the door, he's going to get pissed off. And he's going to remember that he's lonely. He's going to remember that they don't really want him around. So he's going to start making phone calls.
What happens when he leaves Tony angry like that? Is it something that Tony did or something he perceived?
It could definitely be something that Tony said, because Tony would troll him too.
Down on the ground.
Yeah, I mean, he would say things like that.
I'd love to have seen that. Oh my God.
He would say, "Can I have a kiss first?" You know, all that kind of stuff. So certainly they do have their problems in their friendship. But yeah, I mean, it's just as irrational as his anger towards everything else. He's just really angry with his life position.
But and like you said, you know, he gets smarter when he gets drunk, though, right?
Yeah.
So chances are Tony's giving him shit the whole time, and then as he gets drunk, he decides he's smart again, and he does his resistance thing, whatever he's doing.
So I guess I would say it's not necessarily smarter, but he's not able to delude himself. Yeah, his delusion, his mind won't let him do that at the moment.
It's all relative, though. I mean, compared to where he was, he's smarter. I mean, it's not smart to
sure.
an average person, but yeah.
Yes. Yeah, of course.
Wow, that's thanks for that. It's very insightful. We love to delve into his craziness and his crazy fucking, you know, habits and the way he treats people. And it's so comical as you're saying these things. Why is it that everything that guy does is hilarious? What is it that makes it so funny? I can't quite put my finger on it.
He doesn't mean to be. First of all,
yeah, of course.
Yeah, and second of all,
nobody could be that way on purpose. I mean, nobody could develop a character like that. Like, like Johnny Depp turns into Captain Jack Sparrow. Nobody could turn into Lorne Armstrong.
I'm still having a hard time believing he's real. I mean, I went to see him.
Yeah.
Maybe this is just a big Andy Kaufman-esque kind of,
We've all wondered that. It's just like what we're saying about The Room. You watch The Room and you're like, hang on a minute, this cannot be real. It's got to have been a big joke. And it's the same with Lorne. You're like,
but I don't know where to see it at. I've only got Amazon Prime, and it's not on there.
That's all you need. That other stuff.
No, you have to dig a little deeper to find that. You might have to order it.
Yeah. I've seen clips of it.
Yeah, it's a joy to behold. You have to watch it.
Yeah, Kel and I have exchanged, titles to watch of really, really bad movies.
Yeah, it's very good. It really it's not very good. It's just straight. I can't. You've just got to watch it. You've just got to watch it
like that. Okay. I can watch it now, Andrew. Okay.
I'm gonna. Sorry?
I'm going to watch it now before the documentary you just sent me, though. So now I've got to see what you guys are talking about.
Guys, we're going to have to start wrapping up, unfortunately. I start these a little earlier than I used to because on Sunday nights I have to... Obviously, it's back to work in a few hours for me. So just very quickly, just to wrap things up, Kat, I just want to say what a pleasure it's been to have you on. And I really appreciate you,
Thank you so much.
Telling us.
I would love to do this again if you'd like. I would absolutely love it. I've enjoyed every minute of it. Thanks for listening to all my drama.
You're awesome, Kat.
Yeah, thanks so much. It's kind of everything that it's kind of been everything that I'd hoped it would be. It's quite profound, and hopefully some people will get some kind of help from what you've said.
I hope so, because I tell you, when you break free, when you finally break free of that, it literally is like being let out of a cage that you've been in for years. It is every good thing. Nothing but good can happen to you. It's amazing, and I can't believe that with the things I did to myself that I survived all these years. But I'm very grateful that I did. I'm grateful for all of you guys, this community, and just,
Lorne.
hope I always can stay in touch.
Isn't it
with you
strange?
I'm grateful for Lorne.
We've got Lorne to be grateful for all of this.
I'm
Try and get your head around
the only
that.
good thing he's ever done.
Just think, we've all met because of Lorne. I've travelled to different countries because of Lorne. We have this entertainment. It's fucking mind-blowing.
Well, we'll draw straws as to who has to give him a kiss on the cheek for it.
I will.
I'll do the other side.
Yeah. So, Kat, thank you. Like I said, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. We will no doubt have you on again, because there's an endless array of topics to discuss with this guy, and me and Shin and Tiffany have got ideas for other stuff and some non-Lorne related things. We could go on forever, baby. Shin, as always, my good friend, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And
see
Tiffany,
you guys.
For your late appearance, thank you as well.
Come and knock on my door.
Thank you.
And guys in the chat, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. I'm sorry I have to wrap these things up so quickly. I could stay on for hours. Maybe what I'll do one day is we'll do one of these when I'm not in work the day after, and we'll just go on for as long as we can. We'll do like some kind of really long stream, and we'll think of something. But just as a kind of point I wanted to make about the alcohol thing is, if anybody's like bordering on whether they should give up or not, and they've thought about it. If you've ever thought about it, it means that you probably should do. It's like, because some of my friends say to me things like, "Oh, you need to live a little," and they'll say things like that as a point of why you should drink. Oh, you need to enjoy yourself. I'm like, you know what? When you don't drink, and you're not waking up hungover, and you're getting up early, and you can walk round at the side of the lake, not when it's nice and calm, and there's no one else around, and you're not hungover, and you've not got that, you enjoy the simple things in life even more. And them are the things that make life worth living. You know,
that was the first. And sorry to interrupt real quick, but that was one of my favorite things about getting sober is waking up feeling good.
Yeah,
because that hadn't happened for so long. And when it becomes
the norm, you don't really appreciate it. But when you break free and you start to things that you took for that you didn't necessarily realize were so amazing, you start to appreciate more. Like I said, like, you know, early mornings, good food. Evenings without, Friday nights having to yourself without having to worry about beer and drinking, and the amount of money that you save is unbelievable.
And the chase is over. Well, that's one of the best things about waking up for me is knowing I don't have to do the chase. I don't have to start. Where am I going to get it? How am I going to get it?
Yeah.
That is.
You're right. You're in a cage. You're right.
Right. It is absolute slavery. I just put my email in the chat. If anybody needs help or wants to find help, please reach out to me, and I'll be more than glad to talk to you or find some resources that can help. Because let me tell you, if I can do it, anybody can. Anybody.
And the same goes for me. If anybody wants to email me.
I know how you feel. Right. You're not alone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But thank you, Andrew.
Email us, guys. Anybody?
Has your email showed up in the chat? I can't see it.
I can't see it either. I didn't see it. Hang on a sec.
I think it gets rid of email addresses for some reason, and I don't know how to bypass it.
Well, isn't that rude? Well.
It's up there. I see it.
Oh no, it is on there. It's me being stupid. There it is. Forget it.
Under Tiffany,
no, it's in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, so don't forget, guys, if anybody needs any support with regard to a problem that you've got with alcohol that you didn't feel comfortable in saying, there are people in this community that will help you and take the time to do it. And as Kat has just very kindly said, she's been through the worst of it and come out the other side. So if there's anybody that needs any assistance at all, please get in contact. The email address for Kat is in the comments. It's been an honour and a pleasure to do this. It's been great. The more, like I said, related streams that will be coming up soon. And we're just going to do some fucking stupid ones where we talk about his ridiculous, crazy antics and don't necessarily get so profound. We've got to balance it out. So, guys, thanks again. Thank you to Mr. Shin's Koala, Kat, and last but not least, Tiffany. Thanks, guys, for joining us. And thanks everybody in the chat.
Coming in.
Of course, thank you.
And guys, good evening, and we'll speak to you